Welcome to Vermontitude, a collaborative effort between Great Eastern Radio, the Brattleboro Reformer, and BCTV to bring you the stories behind the stories on the topics you want to learn more about. Because there's always more, so there'll always be Vermontitude. Hosted by me, Peter Fish Case. Welcome to Vermontitude. New episodes drop every Tuesday and can be found by going to Vermontitude.com, Reformer.com, Brattleboro.tv, and locally on Comcast Channel 78. We come to you from our studios at the Innovation Box on Landmark Hill. I'm Peter Fish Case, and each week I cover the topics that are of concern to Windham County and the towns that reside within its borders. Today, we're going to have a really good conversation with Elayne Clift, who's a journalist, a professor, a citizen activist. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here.
All right, let's dive into this, because you and I had an interesting conversation which spurred to this conversation about if you're not happy with the way things are right now under this current administration, what do you do? And we went back and forth about showing up in mass to writing your congressmen and your senators. So we had a good, and I want you to tell the people what you told me.
So I think that resistance is really important right now, and it's growing stronger. And there are many methods of resistance. And I think that, for example, the local town hall meetings that are so vibrant are important. I think the April 5th national marches that are going to take place, which I think may lead to larger marches in Washington, are extremely vital. But there are other ways that one can resist. And I just written a piece about this. I mean, even if you think about what's happened historically, what's happened in this country, you know, we've been resistors ever since we left Britain and had the Tea Party and refused to follow British rules and all the rest. We've witnessed, and of course, we helped to end a war, a Vietnam War, with resistance. The women's movement, the civil rights movement have all taught us lessons about resistance. And if you think beyond that and prior to that, historically, I mean, what happened, like say in Gandhi's India with the Salt March was extraordinary. What happened with Martin Luther King's rhetoric was extraordinary. And there's South Africa, you know, there's so many examples of models for resistance. The problem, I think, right now is that I happen to have a communications background, and there's a methodology that is proven to change attitudes and beliefs and practices, and the political parties have never understood it. They've never invited that to be part of their strategy teams, and so I can give you a couple of examples, but. For one thing, media advocacy really, really works, and that involves things like localizing the impact of what's going on. It's not just showing up at town halls. It's really getting the media in as a partner. There are many ways, many channels of and I don't mean TV channels, but right. Channels of communication. Whether it's radio, it could, you know, and it's very critical to have credible spokespeople, not political spokespeople. Political messaging is not working. So one thing is to advocate for more communications expertise for messaging, and thinking about who the best spokespeople would be, and having sort of target audiences so that you're messaging consistently, but in a different way to different cohorts. For example, going to the grassroots levels. The people, we never hear them talk about poverty. It's always about the middle class. You know, the thing that actually AOC and Bernie are doing now is going to where people are, finding out where they are in terms of their frustration and their politics, and thinking and listening to them and developing messaging along the lines of what you're hearing from them. It's enough already with repeating the problem and asking people to be hopeful and to get together. It's just not working. So it frustrates me deeply, because I worked on a project that was international. I was actually deputy director of an international project that was geared to behavior change with respect to health promotion and prevention for mothers and children. I cannot tell you how successful that project was and how many lives it saved. So I'll stop there for now, because you probably have more you want to ask me.
Well, you know, I guess you had mentioned something, political messaging, and I think you and I had a brief conversation around this as well. Sometimes there seems to be a lot of the one side says one thing and the other side says we need to raise money. Let's take that headline. Let's elevate that up. And I think it's a lot of fear-based messaging. And there's, as you said, I think you might have mentioned, like, not a lot of hopeful based messaging, and not a lot of like, my $25 is going to stop this. I don't think so. Not mine. If you've got 5% of the population to weigh in on it, maybe. But so I find, like, if the Democrats are pushing against something the Republicans are saying, it's with an equal amount of fear. And we can just use Social Security as an example, because it's the one that we talked. And do you believe that Social Security can just take care of that, get rid of that?
I think that they're demonstrating that they can get rid of anything they want to get rid of, including democracy. I mean, I am very, very frightened about the social safety nets, which have, and it's important to understand that all of these repressions and oppressions that we're seeing now, they're all connected. Social Security can be altered. It can be changed. Medicare, Medicaid, every single social safety net. They're now coming after the disabled, which I have to say is the first thing that Hitler went after.
Yeah.
This is the fascist playbook, and he's ignoring all the rules, all the constitutional rights, and it's really, really a terrifying time. I think, though, I want to say that I think that there are many ways to resist, and one of them, even music and literature and all that. But this is a time when we need to have a more muscular resistance, and I think that comes from economic boycotts. I'm very much in favor of a national strike or a national slow day, or maybe even once a month a national slow day. And also, I'm begging my political representatives to write very soon and very quickly and get it out there a Project 2028, which refutes 25 and promises antidotes that are specific legislation that will unravel, what's been going on now.
Right.
But I don't have a lot of hope that this administration is going to is going to pull back. I think what I'm worried about, he's going to shut off elections. And I think the way he's going to do it is to start a war so that we deflect, and he calls it a national emergency.
Right.
So I just think we are in the throes. We are not facing autocracy. We are in an autocracy that is becoming 100% fascist. And so many people are going to die from this. It's going to be from lack of housing, from lack of health care, from lack of education. That's why I'm pleading with the leaders to understand the importance of developing appropriate messaging that starts with finding out where people are, Republicans and Democrats, and what is going to resonate with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So which comes down to this theory that I have, like the macro stuff, the big picture stuff, the huge protests, the millions showing up, is a nice visual. And look how we did that. And then they disperse and they go away, and we sort of forget about it after a few days. I'm sort of in, and I think what I'm hearing is you not disagreeing with sort of this micro effect of going after like single senators and congresspeople and things like that in your district. If you don't disagree, like, you need to band together and come up with this common message that just says, stop it, make it stop, or we'll replace you. I mean, that to me is something I think we can control a little bit more on a local level. And I think Vermonters in a whole are fairly well represented inside the Beltway. I think we can agree on that. But for other people outside the borders of Vermont, is a micro way of approaching this. Is that a good way to gain some traction?
Well, I think what, part of what happens in media advocacy is you can have a single message around a single issue, but they can't be the only thing you talk about. And there's not one audience. You have, part of what we do is we segment the audience. So we have primary, secondary, tertiary audiences, mm-hmm. and they all get messaged with the consistent messages, or at least umbrella messages. And I think that, one of the things that we have to do is when I talk about localizing messages, what I'm really referring to as a media advocacy thing is that you give testimony to what has happened in your area. You tell the stories of how people where you live have been affected. Another very, very useful, important thing to do is use what we call creative epidemiology. And what that means is that, N number of people have lost their homes or their this or their that or, whatever. And that's equal to 3 jumbo jets going down in a day. That's creative epidemiology. Or that, so how many people are going to get measles, although it doesn't have to be a health thing. Few people may have it here, but how big is it in your community?
Right. Right. Yeah.
So there are a lot of things like that.
Okay. It's just an interesting conversation to have. I thank you for making some time to have this conversation, because these are things, as somebody who feels engaged and knows how to move the needle, having a hard time moving the needle. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to hear more about this communication thing that you were talking about. So did you have more on that, though? I feel like you sort of stopped yourself and you had more on that communication piece.
Well, actually, it's a pretty if you do it to the scale that, you want to attract really a lot into people, it's a very labor-intensive, research-based methodology. But there are lots of pieces of it that can be easily adapted. And so I don't want to take up too much time with this methodology. I'm just saying that it's out there and it has huge impact and people don't know. The leadership doesn't know about it. I tried to get a story in either the New York Times, a piece about an op-ed in the New York Times and the Washington Post, and I couldn't get a column inch. Then I tried to get it as letters to the editor. I couldn't get a column inch. Then I got in touch with my legislators, no reaction. So it's just so frustrating when I've seen the impact of this methodology. And I'm not saying it's just communication, but a huge part of what we're missing is how do you message? What do you message? How do you develop your messages? Who delivers your messages? Instead of this kind of repetitive, and of course it drives me insane, the constant asks for money. What for? Tell me what you're going to do with that money.
Well, that's the thing I'm talking about. Like as we doom scroll through social media, as text messages coming in going, oh my God, we're under attack, give me $25 from the party that maybe you believe in, that you vote for the most. I find it horribly confusing, weighty, it gets dark, it's hard to handle, and as a result, we just shut down. Mm-hmm. And someone let the next guy take care of it. But that's not the attitude we should have.
Well, I don't think people are shutting down. I think they're being woken up. I think we're really getting even woker than we ever were. And I think that's really important. One of the ways that I advocate is actually through my columns. I mean, I write really tough stuff about what's happening, political stuff. And actually, lately, people have said to me, please don't stop writing. And then a whole bunch of other people have said to me, be careful what you're writing.
Yeah.
So I have some growing anxiety about that, although I'm hoping I'm too small a fish to fry. But they come after people like me now. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it really, really is. All right. So you mentioned a few times that you're writing a column, that you're just publishing this piece. Where can people find it?
It's actually, I do two monthly columns, and they go out at the end of the month to various newspapers and blogs. And I try to stay ahead of, so I'm not at the last minute. Mm-hmm. So what I just wrote yesterday won't come out until May.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, where can people find your work?
So I write for the Brattleboro Commons. The Keene Sentinel runs me, and then there's a media group that includes the Rutland Herald and the other newspapers in the more northern side of Vermont, and I blog widely. So, and I have actually a website where I post them all on my personal blog.
Well, give us the website.
It's my name, Elayne, Elayne -Clift, CLIF like Frank, T like Tom, .com, and you can put a /blog.
Okay. All right, great. Well, I'll make sure that this ends up in the description of our Vermontitude today. Mm-hmm. Elayne, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your schedule to kind of come in and just sort of kind of suss this out a little bit. I feel a little bit better having talked to you.
Oh, thank you.
So hopefully folks who are watching will feel the same. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.